Welcome to the channel, and here is the review for the latest episode of Silo, Season 2, Episode 8, that has just dropped. So, this is my run through and opinion and some analysis of what went on. But it's, I believe they only have 10 episodes in this season, so we're getting close to the end. There's a lot of unanswered questions about the entire series, but also about what's going on this season. So this one's moving along. I know some people are thinking the pace said that the pacing's been pretty slow, and I agree in some points. But they continue to progress the story, and that's one of the good things about this. Um, that's one of the good things about this show is that it does move forward. It does have a story. It's building towards something, probably a big announcement or big reveal, I guess you could say. But it is progressing. And we'll start off with what happened last episode, episode 7. Of course, Jules was down trying to fix the water pump to get rid of the groundwater that's gradually flooding the silo. And of course, um, she does get it fixed, but finds that her air supply gets shut off, and there's no response to her, I don't know, communication rope and bell. So she takes off up to the surface and finds Solo gone. Her little water, uh, she was using a water gun to do the opposite of pumping water. That's pump oxygen. And it's knocked over, and there's blood, and there's a hatchet and an arrow. So there's signs of something going on up there. So that was the end of the episode. Now we're moving on to today's episode, episode 8. Um, you see that it starts off with uh, in Silo 17, but quickly jumps back to Silo 18. So there's one major thing happening in Silo 17, and then there's the usual normal, a couple of things going on in Silo 18. So I'm going to start with Silo 18. We see Bernard going into a utilities closet. Um, Shuts the door, nothing more done. Shirley confronts Billings, the sheriff, in the cafeteria about solving the judge's death. He seems to be a little bit lost at the moment. Um, Lucas is he's still working away on that puzzle, the code, and what he does is he heads out to the judge's apartment to have a look for clues. He runs into a couple of raiders emptying the judge's apartment on order of Sims, but he has a blue security card, which I guess is high priority or high status or whatever he is. They don't believe him that he's Bernard's shadow, but the blue card is enough for them to sort of slink off when he tells them to get out. He does a lot of work in there, but doesn't really get anywhere. So there's a computer terminal in there that he pulls up looking for Salvador Quinn's descendants. It's password hidden, but he types in a number that's on the back of his card, and it unlocks it so he can find out where they are. Um, in the meantime, Knox is not sitting still. He's in there with a bunch of people in Walker's area, and they're talking about how they're getting short of everything, so they want to raid supply, which is levels above the 120 barrier that they set up last week. So they're planning the raid. Walker tells them they're dumb, whatever, but she does know about what their plans are now, so that becomes important in a little bit in this episode. But next, see Lucas going to see these descendants. Apparently, they've been making wool for the cleaning as well as wool for blankets, etc., for 140 years. That's what they said. So they're not very cooperative. Lucas threatens them very poorly. A couple of times he's looking for books, is what he tells them. They come back with Quinn was horrible, to kind of disowning him. They've been trying to get rid of his name for generations. But when Lucas goes back and tells Bernard all this, then Bernard tells him that Quinn actually is a hero. That he Lucas says that he cut off access to communications. He reformatted hard drives, whatever, just to get rid of, and he burned books. And that's when Bernard says, well, he was a hero. He saved the silo because the silo used to have a cycle of every 10 years there'd be a rebellion. Um, doesn't mention that half the time that rebellion probably is caused by whoever is in charge of IT, but that's beside the point. So the wonderful thing that Quinn did to be such a hero is that he decided to break history. He basically burnt all these books, wiped the hard drives, created the relics that they have. The one like Jules had um, from the past, anything from the past, basically, so that a generation would not know what happened previously. And that is a sort of an important factor because Knox and Shirley down deep, they found that list of names and the accusations by those names that IT was blaming them for all these various things. I mean, if they just sat down and talked. But, anyways, yeah, so the history does contribute to some of the stuff going on, but in a lot of cases, if the history was shared, if people were actually honest, a lot of this stuff probably wouldn't happen. But anyways, um, so Lucas says, "Well, how's that possible that we don't remember?" And Bernard says, "Well, they've been putting stuff in the water for years to affect people's memory." Which is something that was told to Kennedy, who was a bomber, and there was a lady in the first season that was like a midwife, and they kept her drugged in because she was talking about the past. So that's as part of their plan to um, suppress history, so people don't know what happened. So that's kind of revealing, showing the depths or the lengths that IT will go to keep people stupid. Um, anyways, we next find Sim's wife, and he's meeting with the head of Judicial Security, which used to be her husband, but now is another guy. And she starts pushing him to find out what Lucas is trying to do. Because Sims wants to know what he's doing, which is her husband, and they all want to know what Lucas is doing, which Bernard doesn't want them to know because, like him, they can't be trusted, so he doesn't tell them anything. Um, So we then find Walker going up the stairs, and Shirley's asking her where she's going, and she says she's going to meet or to fix a pump. But she goes into that same utility room that we saw Bernard going into, and Bernard is her back and forth. Walker's really only concerned about her his her ex. I was going to say his because in the books the Walker character is male, and there's none of this um, worried about the relationship that was abandoned. I don't remember any of that at all. He doesn't. This whole bit of the storyline is new, invented for I don't know another pressure point for the story or something like that. But there's no hint of anything like that from Walker. Um, anyways, the big clue, or that Bernard somewhat understands, is he tells her blankly that what Mechanical is doing will kill them all. He never bothers, so to explain that he knows what happened in Silo 17 and that where they're leading these riots that happened every 10 years always, I guess, resulted in people wanting to go outside and going outside and dying. So you can kind of see that the lack of information, lack of sharing is causing a lot of the issues. But they are so focused on following the pact or the playbook that they've been given and doing what they're told to do that they don't seem to be able to understand that a little bit of honesty might go a long way to resolving some of this stuff. But Bernard then makes an offer to Walker that she'll be his spy. And if she is his spy, then he will make sure nothing happens to his Walker's ex, who's the head of supply. So Walker eventually agrees and rats out the team going to supply, who all get arrested, basically. Um, so Bernard, again, as we could have guessed when he was seeing the picture of the two of them in the jail cell holding hands, is found something where he can use it to control people, and he gets sort of confirmation from Walker that she'll continue to be his spy, um, and he will make sure nothing happens to her ex. And he also tells her to turn the camera back on so he can watch. So he tells her that if she had any thoughts of maybe going back on the deal, there'll be people watching her all the time. So that's kind of how Bernard's a bastard. Um, so really, the only other big thing is that Billings, um, Kennedy, the bomber, tells Billings' wife about the page. She demands to see it, and he finally shows it to her. But at this point, he's spinning his wheels. He doesn't know which way to turn. He's kind of given up on Bernard, but he doesn't trust or believe in what the mechanical people are doing. So right now, he's in a very awkward place. Um, then, sort of the final part from Silo 18 is that Lucas goes back to meet Quinn's descendants after talking to Bernard and tells them that, in fact, their descendant, or, well, Quinn was a hero. Doesn't say why, doesn't say how he knows, just says that he's a hero and that he's not what they're saying. And that seems to melt any resistance they have. They let him know that the judge actually came down here to meet them before she became the judge, when she was, guess what, Bernard's shadow, and wanted a book. So I thought maybe it was a Wizard of Oz book, and that's how she got it, but no, it's Quinn's copy of the Pact, because everybody seems to have a copy of the Pact. So Lucas gets that, and we see him find certain letters and words underlined, and then there's a section about moving forward 20 paces or +2 or something, and he figures out that's pages. And that takes him to another section where he can kind of decipher that it says, if you got here, you know, you're you're getting ahead. But ultimately, or no, he says, if the code says, if you got here, you know everything's a lie. But anyways, he manages to um, decode one line out of all this crap that was on the computer screen that Bernard and him couldn't figure out. So he's actually making progress on deciphering the code that Quinn has left behind. Sims meets him outside the office he's working in, or basically his home, and threatens his mother, basically, who works in one of the medical areas or something. But he also warns him about not trusting Bernard, because Bernard would throw him under the bus. So I think he kind of knows that. But that's kind of it for Silo 17. Um, Other than Walker kind of looks, when Shirley comes down to tell him about the failure of the raid, she looks everywhere but at Shirley, and it's kind of like, come on, you can kind of tell that she's got something hot hidden here. But anyways, um, so Walker is still going to be the snitch. But that's pretty well it for Silo 18. So what did we learn? Well, we learned that more data, when Bernard had said at one point that the silos were built 350 years ago. Um, we see that the Quinn descendants says they've been doing what they've been doing, which is making the wool for cleaning for 140 years. Again, more data about the depth. And then the rebellion every 10 years is something absolutely new that we just learned, which is um, basically there's a continuing cycle of um, rebellions that happened about every 10 years. And this Quinn guy came along with a means of, by destroying history, keeping them from happening. So Bernard had said that they had 140 years of peace because of Quinn and what he did. But yeah, so getting more and more information about the length of time, but still, and even some reason about the rebellions, but not particularly any great information dump from about anything else. So Lucas has finally got a means where he can. So the important points are Lucas has finally got a means where he can decrypt some of the codes. Great. We got Walker going to be a snitch. That means whatever Mechanical does will be known to Bernard if she continues to comply. Okay. We have Billings spinning his wheels. He doesn't know which way to turn. So that could be potentially dangerous. Maybe, maybe not. Um, but we also have Sims working in the background, pushing to try to regain Bernard's favor. Or I kind of think that at one point, just the way he talks about Bernard and you can't trust him and all this stuff, that eventually we're going to see Sims try to supplant him as head of IT, which makes no sense because Sims doesn't know shit about computers. But I wouldn't put it past that he would try to take control. Anyways, so yeah, the questions we still need answers to is exactly what Quinn says in his coded message, and we have to continue to see whether Walker will continue to comply because right now Bernard seems to be trying to um, retake how what land he's lost to Mechanical. Whether he's successful or not, we'll have to see next week. I mean, ultimately, I think where it's going is because we have Jules working away in 17, and she wants to get back to save everybody. I think she will she will at least make it to Silo 18. Whether they maybe that's going to be the cliffhanger, but whether they'll let her in or not, we don't know, and we have no idea what they're going to do. So, um, yeah, that is something that has to be determined. But I think she will make. And there's been some in the trailers. There's been a couple of like just pictures, and one of the pictures shows her in what we would think is the fireman's. It's not her normal spacesuit, all white space suit. It's actually a looks more like a fireman's suit. So, and that she's outside in it. So she obviously gets outside 17 and is going to at least try to get back to 18. That probably would be a great time to end this series, and then the next series, which I think is already completed, and they're already potentially starting on season 4. Um, but yeah, they can go on from there. Um, so that's all about Silo 18. Silo 17. Um, remember from previous episode that Solo's missing. Jules comes up, finds him gone, finds the blood, finds some weapons, and starts looking around. But then, as you recall, one of the things that Solo told her was about what bends were and how to combat them. So just as Jules starts looking around, um, she starts experiencing the bends, which is if you're a diver and you come up too fast, what happens is nitrogen bubbles start to appear in your like from your body, start to your nitrogen in your body starts to appear as bubbles and in people's bloodstream, and that causes, well, can eventually cause um, death. To be to be frank about it. So what usually you'll see, what is it, like a big atmospheric temperature or an atmospheric um, pressure cylinder that people that come up from below will have to go into, and that helps with the bends. Or she, what Jules does is what Solo told her to do, which is go down about 20 feet and wait until you don't feel sick anymore, which is kind of about his level, but she does it. You see her go back down, and she's breathing. She gets her pump set back up and goes down and sitting there breathing um, until she starts feeling somebody tugging on the rope. So she goes back up. Probably been down long enough because we've jumped back and forth between her in the water breathing and Silo 18, but probably been down long enough that she's finished the um, or gotten over the bends. But she comes up and starts walking along, and you see what's on the screen, which is somebody wearing the Raiders helmet and has a hammer or something, sword. Not sure what it is, but Jules has also got that little axe she picked up, and somebody out of or behind this guy behind the light shoots her with an arrow in the shoulder. So she runs off, has to go back and pull the arrow out and heal herself, but she's asking them that says that where's the guy that was here? He's got something. I have to have it back. They tell her that they've killed him. Um, we have no idea if that's true or not. There was blood and such, but we don't know for sure whether they've done it or not. So obviously, there's at least two. There's a guy in the picture here, and then somebody with a bow and arrow, obviously out of camera shot, that shoots Jules. Um, so she eventually gets patched up and brings out like a pipe and a piece of metal that she's using as a shield to um, try to find these people again, because she needs to find Solo. She has to find Solo if she's going to get her fireman suit back, because he said he hid it. So he finds a body. She finds a body on the stairs, but it's an ambush. The person jumps her. There's a fight. She kind of subdues. The person takes their Raider helmet off, and it's just a kid. But at that point, um, two other people show up and basically surround her. So these two people here. Oh, so that's the first encounter where she gets shot with the arrow, and then these are the other two. There's obviously the person with the arrow. Well, they actually said, I put one in your shoulder. If you move, I'm going to put another one right through your heart. So there's got to be at least these two plus the one younger girl or whatever that Jules has on the ground, and I think there's one other person at least. So there's got to be at least four. So we finally got an answer to episode 1, where Jules was trying to swing across on a rope and it lets go and she falls in the water. And when coming back out, she looks at the rope and it looks like it's been tampered with. So obviously it's been tampered with, these kids, these people, because they're all young. They're not older people. Now, they're not children. Um, and they seem to be actually probably younger than even Solo is. So the question is, you know, where did they come from? Did they come from another silo, or are they leftovers? Because Solo survived, Um, Jules said at one point to Solo, "Hey, some of the bodies look, you know, not as old as the ones outside." And she questions on what happened there. He doesn't want to answer that, but there were people in the obviously there were people that survived the initial rush outside that killed everybody because some of these people kept coming back to the door. There was a section there where somebody had written on the door, "We'll get in soon," or something like that. So that's a message to Solo. So obviously people survived. They didn't. People didn't all go outside for whatever reason. They were maybe down way, way deep in mechanical. Not everybody came up. They were in hospital, sick, playing hooky. Don't know. But not everyone was killed, and there are survivors, or they've come from outside. Now, that I think is not a possibility. Or if they did, they came a long time ago because just how difficult it was for Jules to get from one place to the other and get in through the door. Remember that when Jules tried to come in episode one, she had to force her way in through the door. So if these other people had come in, unless they've come in after, um, the door wouldn't have been jammed shut as tight as it was. So I think we're going to find that these are people who, because Solo has been in so long, maybe 30 years inside the vault, these are probably kids of somebody who's maybe passed away since then. Maybe the people who were scratching on the walls that they would get in sometime, whatever, but they're probably enemies of Solo. They've been trying to get into the vault for years, and Solo's got his greedy little horde inside. Now he was told to stay inside, so, anyways. Um, so, what's that leave us? Well, obviously, there's other people in the vault. We do not know whether Solo's dead or not. He could be dead. Although I think, again, in that trailer they launched at the start of the season, there's a picture of him that we haven't seen yet. So I kind of think that he probably is still alive, but we don't know. Obviously, Jules, there's that picture in that trailer that Jules is in the fireman suit. So obviously, that requires Solo. That means that Solo is, in fact, not dead. And probably these guys have him someplace. There's also a picture, though, that shows Jules in that. What is it? The Legacy is what Bernard calls it. The room with all the books and all the artifacts and stuff. So there's a picture of in that trailer of Jules, and it looks like in the same room. So either she gets inside that vault that Solo is jealously guarding, or that's from when she's back in 18. We don't know that yet. So I'm not giving it away because I have read the books, but I'm using what's been released so far. So what we're going to need to find out next week is, or in the next two episodes, I'm assuming, is um, where's Solo? Because I think the 10th or last episode of the season is going to be Jules leaving 17 to go back to 18. That's my guess. I have uh, nothing that advanced knowledge or anything like that, but that seems to me to be a good cliffhanger. Like Jules maybe going to the big window in the cafe and knocking on it or whatever, because I think Bernard is not going to want to let her in, but who knows? So we need to find out if Solo is alive or not, and Jules needs her suit back, and we need to know who these people are and how they survived, and yeah. On 18, we still need Lucas to decode more of the message left by Salvador Quinn. We need Billings to make a decision on what he's going to do. Um, Mechanical is going to continue to do what they do, but of course, Walker will Walker continue to be a rat for Bernard? And what is it Sims and his wife are up to? We don't know. I will tell you from the books that in the book there's no Sims. There's no Sims wife. The judge is very limited involvement. Walker is male and, from what I remember, monogamous. So a lot of this part is what they've added to the writing this season. Not saying that that's bad, don't have a problem with it, but just some of this stuff is, I'm just sort of showing that they do deviate a little bit from the books. Most of the story so far is exactly what it is in the books. Maybe a little bit out of order, maybe dwelling on one area a little bit more than the other, but it's pretty much following the books. Um, and these two seasons are actually only Wool, the first book. Um, there's still two other books that I would say, they haven't even touched on yet. One is called Shift, and that's all about the why, the who, whatever of the silo. It's what happened before Jules' time and whatever. It's who built the silo, why, who caused the plague, why, that kind of stuff. And then um, the final book is the conclusion of everything that's currently happening um, in Silo 18, the conclusion to what happens to 17, and all the other parts. So there's supposed to be at least 4 seasons of this. Um, if there's only going to be 4 and no more, then they're going to have to pick up the pace, because 2 seasons for one book, that would, to me at least, it would say there'd have to be 6 seasons minimum to cover the 3 books if you're going to do 2 seasons for one book. I'm not sure they're even going to show much of Shift, all the aforementioned stuff, but eventually they will have to incorporate. If they don't show it in detail, they'll have to incorporate parts of it into, because there's a lot of stuff in it that is important to it. Although, again, some of the deviations they have to the script will affect the ability for them to carry for or bring the full story from the book in. And I can't say anything more. Anyways, another good episode. Pacing is still somewhat slow in Silo 17, a little faster in Silo 18, but again, good acting. As far as I'm concerned, my opinion only. Everybody can have their own opinion, but excuse me, the writing's good. It's building towards a conclusion, which will probably be episode 10. Um, it has me coming back to find out, even though I know what's going to happen based on having read the books, but I'm still interested to see where the show's going. What's in the next episode? I want the answers to some of these questions that I brought up. So yeah, I'm still happy with the show, and I still recommend the show. Okay.